This is Impact Hustlers, the podcast on the entrepreneurs that solve the world's biggest social and environmental problems. And I'm your host, Maiko Schaffrath. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode, most importantly, with a friend. To keep updated on new episodes, visit impacthustlers.com and sign up for our email alerts. And follow us on Twitter as well, at Impact Hustlers. Enjoy today's episode, and let's go.
Impact Hustlers, the podcast on entrepreneurs and change makers that are creating solutions to the world's biggest problems. Impact Hustlers is brought to you by Fast Forward 2030 and Real Changers. Visit fastforward2030.com to learn how to include the global goals into your business model, and realchangers.com to find talent and careers with impact. And this is your host, Maiko Schaffrath.
On today's episode, I speak to Jay McGregor, founder and editor-in-chief of Point, an investigative journalism YouTube channel. For the channel, they have worked with leading publishers like Forbes and Engadget to expose scandals such as a Ponzi scheme based on Bitcoin and Russian propaganda on social platform Reddit. Now Jay and his team are preparing to launch a game called Misinformer, which revolves around the issue of fake news. It uses real-life stories that have been exposed by Point and fictionalizes them. The player becomes the journalist tasked with investigating the issue, and it seems like a really exciting game to come. Misinformer is currently crowdfunding on Kickstarter, so do check that out. And it's great to have you on the show, Jay.
Thank you very much. I like that intro.
Amazing.
It's so odd to see, it's so odd to hear your work summarized by somebody else. You know, you're just working on your own thing, and then all of a sudden someone just says,
in that tunnel, and then Oh yeah, I mean, we're doing all these things.
Exactly, yeah. I'm sat in UCL being interviewed, so yeah, it's unusual to be on this end of the interviewing side.
I have that experience every now and then when somebody asks me to submit a bio about me, and then I have to update it. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing all these things. Oh God, how do I manage? Great to have you. And if one looks at your profile, you've been a freelance journalist for many years, working for all kinds of publications. And describe to us a bit maybe the work that you used to do as a freelance journalist and what led you to start Point out of that work.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a journalist since, 2011, I think. So I started off in gaming journalism, so reviewing news, that kind of stuff. The true origin story was that I was a press packer when I was about 6. Do you know what that is? When I was about 6 years old?
Actually, no.
Yeah. So back in the day, I don't know if you still have it, but they used BBC Newsrounds, which is like news for kids on BBC. They used to have a thing where you could be like an associate journalist with them, and I was a press packer, which is what they called it. And all that meant was you send off an application, they send you back some pack, and then that was it. I didn't do anything else. But, I don't know why I did that, but for some reason, obviously, there was the bug of journalism in me. But yeah, I started getting into it properly in 2011. I was in gaming journalism. It was fun. It was interesting. I switched into tech and started writing for The Guardian. And then sort of other places came along, like Tech Radar, The Independent, Evening Standard, a whole bunch of places. And yeah, I guess with Point, the reason I started it was because, obviously Forbes as well. The reason I started Point was because I felt like there wasn't enough tech investigative journalism around. As you know, with tech journalism, a lot of it is based around products and reviews, which is good. People need to know about that kind of stuff. It's really important. But looking into the companies that are operating on social media, looking to the companies that make these products, and sort of doing that extra deep dive, and how these companies and this technology affects society, there wasn't enough of that around. There's a lot more around now, but I kind of felt like I wanted to do that type of journalism, and getting a commission to do a story like that is difficult, because you may very well get commissioned, but if it takes you 2 weeks to do the story and you get, say, £250 for the story, that's not even a quarter of your rent, you know? So I kind of feel like maybe if I do my own thing, I can do the stories I want to do them in the way I want to do them and make all of the money from it as well at the same time. So hence Point was born. That's
Amazing.
how it started.
investigative journalism has been quite squeezed, and I guess the whole business model behind it is only like a few media organizations that really invest a lot of money in investigative journalism, at least from my perspective. I'm not as much into the space as you. But obviously, it seems like a risky business for many media organizations because you can pour a lot of money into a lot of research, and journalists go out and spend months and months maybe on researching certain stories, and then either nothing comes out of it or something comes out of it. But then how do you monetize that, right? So how do you see the whole investigative journalism space? And then how do you believe that you can make a difference? And aren't you scared in that space, like actually building a business in that space?
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously. It's well known journalism has its financial issues. Everybody knows that. And in particular, investigative journalism is not something that is done to make money. It's not something that's monetized easily. And it's very difficult to justify spending lots of money on multiple journalists and lawyers and fact checkers to have one story that might not even have a particularly big impact. Everyone thinks about Spotlight or these, big stories, but a lot of those stories, which are really, important stories that are relevant to a lot of people, and is needed in society. A lot of those stories don't have a big splash or a big moment, or don't even change that much. So yeah, that is difficult. It's difficult to justify that. That is why we came up with the game. We came up with Misinformer. When I started the channel, I knew that you can't just publish these stories and hope, maybe you'll get a sponsor or hope that you'll get lots of views. It's not going to work. As we've seen with YouTube, things go wrong. YouTube had something called the apocalypse, where they sort of removed monetization from a lot of channels and a lot of videos, which has affected us. So you can't just rely on another platform to pay you like that. You need to sort of own how you make money for this kind of stuff. And we spent a lot of time thinking about how to come up with an ethical way to make money from journalism. And by make money, I mean simply just support the journalism. I'm not interested in being a millionaire. I simply just want to make sure that we can continue to do this important work. That's why we came up with the game. And this is something we sat around a good couple of weeks just figuring out exactly what we're going to do with this and how we're going to make money from it. And the game itself, I think, is a really unique way to make money from journalism. With the game, so the short of it is, it's a detective-based mobile and hopefully PC game. The short of it is that every time we publish a new story on Point, we fictionalize it and turn it into a downloadable update for the game. So players will always get to play a version of the news. What that means is it is incumbent on us to make sure we always do good quality reporting. So with journalism now, you do not need to do good quality reporting to make money from journalism. You can do whatever kind of story. And actually, if anything, it's geared towards making sure you have the best headline and mass amounts of traffic, right? Or convincing people to sign up via Patreon or like a paywall. Both of those have their issues, but with the first one, with generating mass amounts of traffic, it doesn't encourage good quality journalism. It encourages day-to-day journalism, which is fine and has its place too, but people need to have a mix and society needs to have good quality reporting. So with the game, we won't have a way to make money. We won't have good quality stories for the game without good quality reporting. You're not going to be able to make a detective story out of like a daily news story about the latest iPhone cable. There's no detective story in that, right? People are not going to pay for a download about that. And nothing wrong with that reporting. That's all good. I've done plenty of that and still do some of that sometimes. But what people are going to pay for is a really good narrative focused, complex detective story that unfolds and really engulfs people and is immersive. And therefore, you need to make sure you have good quality reporting. So these two things are linked. And I want to make sure that when we make money from this channel, whatever way we do it, it is a way that improves the journalism and makes the journalism necessary. So that's kind of where we ended up. So I think if we can pull it off, this will be a future way to fund journalism. It'll be a new way to do it. And I think a lot of other publications who have good quality reporting, like The Guardian, like ProPublica, they will look at stuff like this too, because it's an ethical way to do it. And I think it's something that could potentially change how people consume journalism, but also how journalists do their work as well. Encourages that better quality of reporting.
This is quite an interesting approach. I haven't seen anybody do it in this way, to kind of almost hack the business model in a way of saying, okay, how can we use this content as something else and monetize it in a different way beyond just putting up a paywall and saying, okay, you got to pay £5 for this article or something like that, right? Yeah,
I mean, we had to spend... we with other publications, they're all extremely busy, right? They've got like if you take The Guardian, for example, they've got, have you been to their offices, but they've got like a giant office in King's Cross. It's like 5 floors or something crazy. And there's a lot of people who work there. They've all got to get paid. The rent's got to get paid on that building. So you have to focus on the next day, the next month, the next paycheck. Whereas because we were starting fresh, we had some time to think about what we're going to do. So we could spend some time thinking outside the box, whereas I think other publications probably can't do that as much because the revenues are dwindling so much. So we had that time, and I think because when I say we, so it's me, my co-founder Ed Spencer, and the game builder Russell... I've forgotten Russell's name. Newman. There we go. Sorry, Russ, if you're listening. But yeah, the three of us, you know, we all have different skills, and we spent a bit of time figuring it out. And yeah, we could put together and come up with this sort of out of the box idea.
Amazing. And give us an example for a story that, you know, people would be able to play. Which ideas did you already have? You've done already a bunch of reporting on Point. So
yeah, sure.
Would you already take some of those stories and put them into the game?
So
how would it actually work from the research about the story to publishing the story to being able to play the story?
So we've got a few stories good to go. I don't know how many I can reveal, but the first one, at least, which is in the Kickstarter, you can see it's about a moderator on a fictional forum called Conversely. The forum is a government mandated forum, so basically in this fictional world, the government runs the forums, or at least has one, and it's part of your national service to be a moderator on that. You do a year or two of that where you have to go and moderate conversations, make sure they don't turn nasty or political, or make sure that they aren't gamed and then used to influence the public. Obviously, this has parallels with what's happening today. And what happens is you're the moderator of a gardening forum, and all of a sudden this political spam starts turning up. And what you have to do as the amateur detective, citizen journalist, is figure out where this spam's coming from. That's the first task. So you use a whole bunch of different tools, like a data analysis tool, which we've used in real life, which kind of spots trends between bots and what they're saying, and where those accounts were set up. And it goes right through to like a sting operation on a company that you think might be behind certain stuff. And it gets more and more intense per level. It goes up a level each time, and the stakes get higher and higher. And it gets to a point where you're dealing with extremely high stake stuff to do with the point why these bots were doing that in the first place. And I don't want to give away the story, but it's to do with an upcoming election, not in a way you might think, but the way it all unfolds, it's sort of quite an interesting story, if I do say so myself. So I think we worked on a script for a good amount of time. I think it's really gripping. We're hoping that when we launch the game, this is one that will come with it. In terms of how we're going to turn these stories into games, we've got a guy who's a script writer. He's also a video editor. He's got a film background, and obviously I'll have my input as well. But we will take our best story from that month or that 6 weeks, or a story that we think has good potential to be a game update, and then we will sit down and try and think of a really unique take on that story that could be a fictional version of it. So we'll sort of take the key theme of the story, extrapolate out, and just try and figure out a really interesting story behind it, basically. And hopefully, once that's done, the way we built the game, we can pretty much just drop the stories directly into the game, because it's a largely text-based game, not dissimilar to something like Papers, Please or something like that. So we can drop the story into the game, and it won't require loads of coding from us to make it fit. A little bit, but not loads. So hopefully that means people will be able to turn these stories around very quickly, and people can play them, have plenty to choose from as and when they come out. But I also hope that people, there'll be a bit of a community about this, so people will see our new report and try and guess what our story is going to be off the back of that report. If we've got like a forum where people discuss our stories, or maybe even just in the channel in the comments, people sort of guess how we're going to turn it into a fictional thing, and that becomes like a community thing then. But I think the stories will be very interesting. We've got the first couple. We spent a good bit of time with, so I'm quite keen on those.
And you're hoping to kind of address the fake news problem. What's the idea behind it? Is it the idea to educate people on how fake news work, or is it just creating a bit of awareness around the issue, or what's the kind of impact you're trying to make with the game, or is it people just having fun playing it?
Well, yeah, both really. I mean, you might have some fun. You definitely have some fun playing. Yeah, let me correct that. Yeah, it's an entertaining game. You definitely will have some fun playing it. Yeah, there is an aspect to it where you ultimately you'll participate. You're playing the game as a journalist, so you have to figure out who's behind a conspiracy. That requires you to use a bunch of journalistic tools, and it requires you to use to approach it in a journalistic way. So that means you have to verify things. That means before you make your next choice, because the game is based on choices, and you can have different endings depending on your choices. Before you make your next choice, it has to be based on fact and accuracy. And if you get it wrong, that will be reflected in the game. You don't just lose. The way the game ends will be reflected on your choices. So I think off the back of that, people will see that the amount of work that goes into being a journalist and getting things right. I mean, we don't always get things right, but we aim to, at least good journalists aim to. So people will naturally learn the process of that kind of thing. Because a lot of it is based around misinformation, a lot of these stories, and people will see how easily misinformation can spread and have an impact. And I hope that will be a teaching or learning moment, because a lot of misinformation, and it's happened to all of us, you read something, you're like, oh, that's really shocking. And you go about your day. You might have just scrolled through Twitter and seen something, oh, God, I can't believe that's happened. And you go about your day. Maybe you'll share it, maybe you'll send it to somebody else. You don't really think too much about it. And what's happened is people have ended up, this has had a massive impact in that because of social networks, this stuff gets retweeted, shared, and it spreads so quickly, especially when it's shocking. And the retraction doesn't spread at all. The retraction is seen by, a small percentage of people. So I'm hoping people will just take that extra second and go, wait, let me just double check this. Where has it come from? What's this website? I've never heard of it before. Let me do a DNS search. Okay, hold on, this website was set up a week ago and it's come from wherever, right? So that little bit of extra, doesn't take, a minute maybe to look into that, and you can see actually this is dodgy and people won't share it. And if you don't share these things, if they don't spread, they can't have the impact that they intend to have. So I'm hoping this has in some small way some impact on that process.
Great. Let's talk a bit about your journey as a founder and starting a media company and all that. I think there's a few founders listening to this podcast and always trying to improve and learn. And it can be a hard journey to start any sort of company. And maybe some would say starting a media company might be even harder than many other sectors, right? With all the financial struggles we talked about previously. So what's been the hardest part for you in terms of starting Point and then also getting onto this journey with Misinformer, with the game?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked for myself for a long time, and I have had to learn a lot of management skills. So we have a team of people. I've had to learn a lot of management skills, and I'm very much... I think a lot of people who are founders will recognize this. They've probably been freelancers or just people who work by themselves, and you're used to doing everything yourself, and stepping back and making sure you've hired these people because you believe they can do the job, and stepping back and letting them do their job basically, and only just kind of only intervening when you're needed, when you're asked. That's been a really important thing for me to learn. Also, I guess kind of just figuring out how you're going to monetize your business in the right way, because we don't have any investment. We make our money primarily from doing production work, video production work, because we're a video-based publication. So we do a lot of video production work because we're very good at making videos. So managing the time of us making videos plus doing the work we need to do to build the company, that has been sort of a constant battle over the last couple of years. I think we've kind of got the balance right, not entirely, but we're still getting there. So managing your time, if you don't have investment, it's a grind. It's like a hardcore grind. If you don't have investment, you're fighting for every pound to make sure everyone gets paid, make sure your office rent gets paid, and you do the thing you're doing to grow the company. Because it's very easy to get caught up in doing the work that makes the money, but doesn't necessarily grow the company. And I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we're growing the company every single day in some way or another. So finding that balance is that's really important. But really, it's been a case of just managing your time properly, doing stuff that grows the company, and also taking a moment to relax as well. When it's 7-8 o'clock at night, you got to put your phone down. You could work 24 hours a day if you wanted to. If you really, really wanted to, there will be something else, some email you need to send, something you need to look into, and stopping and taking that. And I only realised this in the last year, but just taking your break, and I mean properly taking a break, because I turned my phone off. I think it was Tim Ferriss, I maybe read one of his books, and he said the thing about not looking at your phone past 8 o'clock or something like that. I do that, and it really makes a big difference. I turn it down, I put it upstairs, and I'll chill out with my girlfriend and watch TV.
One of the very few journalists that does that. I think journalists generally addicted to, let's look at Twitter, let's see what's happening out there. I got to be informed. I can't be left behind, right?
Well, this is it. Yeah. Well, this is because of our journalism. It's all exclusive, original journalism. We don't, because we do videos, we don't publish that often. So I know what story we're working on. I keep an eye out for stories, but I'm also going to make sure I get a good night's sleep, because there's no point. If I turn up to work tomorrow morning and I'm slow, or I miss things because I'm knackered, what's the point? What have I achieved there? If I was on Twitter at 1 a.m. in the morning and I got nothing out of it, or apart from having being tired the next day, there's kind of no point. So yeah, just for me, it's taking that break and relaxing, doing some gardening on the weekends, having a beer, and playing some PlayStation. Find time for those things. Otherwise you're going to burn out really quickly, and you end up hating what you do, and it's not a position you want to be in.
Absolutely. I totally relate to that, and it's such important advice. What advice would you have for founders that are specifically trying to go into the media space and maybe starting their own publication?
Don't do it. It's hard. You don't need more competition. It's hard.
I can imagine that.
Yeah.
Is it a good strategy to, if you want to start a media company, to start a side hustle, maybe start a YouTube channel, start producing some stuff while you either freelance or have another job, even do it in the weekends? Or is it a good strategy to kind of go all in at once? Or
I think I think you need. Okay, so if you're a freelance journalist and you want to just have a side hustle and start a YouTube channel, that's fine. You need some video editing skills off the bat. And I think you probably need to really think about your content strategy as well. This is something we didn't do too much of, because we were chasing big stories. And with YouTube, they favour channels that have lots of content over channels that have thoughtful content. So think about your content. Think about your content strategy. Are you going to publish on YouTube? If you are, then have you got enough content to do that? Can you video edit? Can you do it quickly? Are you going to publish elsewhere? You don't have to always do one of these big platforms. You can do a newsletter. I think a newsletter would be a really good way to start a publication. Really interesting, different way to do a publication. You can another one would be Instagram. It's much easier to do videos and content on Instagram. You can pick up your phone and talk to the camera, and people expect that from Instagram videos. On YouTube, people expect a sort of a very low quality version of television. So you need to be doing production to a similar kind of level. On Instagram, you pick up your phone, say, I've just found this out, really interesting, check this out, and you're good to go. So if you're going to start a new media business, think about where you're publishing, your content strategy. And also, you need to think about how you're going to monetize it. You need to think about how you're going to you've got to think about how you're going to monetize it. What are you doing? We've got a unique idea. We spent time doing this, but this was part of the process. But also, you need to think about if you're doing the type of journalism we do you have lawyers? Do you have access to lawyers? Do you have access to editors, people to look over your work? You can't just publish your own stuff all the time. You need to have someone look over your work, especially if you're calling a company out saying you've done something wrong or someone. You need to have someone in your corner, basically. We're fortunate. We've got a partnership with Engadget, and Engadget basically pay for a part-time journalist to work with us. We also get to use their sort of legal help, and we get to publish on their platform as well. So we're fortunate in that, and they kind of cover all those headaches for us. So if you can get something like that, then great. But you need to think about all these different things. Doing journalism is not an easy job, because if a lawsuit comes your way, then do you have the money to fund that? What are you going to do? You know. So it's a difficult thing to do. You need to really think about it. Of course, there's different types of journalism. You may not do stuff where you call people out. You might do more sort of positive type of work, and in that case, then that might be a bit easier. But there's still quite a few headaches around monetizing content, because there's so much content, and there's so much competition out there. So you need to really have a niche and something you're going to go for.
We talked about Misinformer earlier, and we're coming to an end slowly. So let's tell everyone where they can support the Kickstarter campaign.
Sure.
As this will be released, I think there will be a week left in the Kickstarter campaign. So if you listen to this about a week after it's released, please head to the Kickstarter page. How can people find it?
Yeah. So if you go to youtube.com/point report, you'll see our you'll see the Kickstarter video, and you'll see our Misinformer video. But also, if you just Google Misinformer, it's the first thing that comes up. It's the Kickstarter page, first thing that comes up. We've had a lot of press. We've been fortunate. So we were in Eurogamer, we're in Polygon, we're in Engadget, we were in Journalism.co.uk, The Drum, we were in Neiman Lab just last week. And yeah, we've been absolutely everywhere. So yeah, Google it, you'll find it. One more thing I wanted to say. The other part of Misinformer, and what we're going to do, and this is the first time I've talked about this to anyone in the press, is that off the back of the games, hopefully within the next year, if we can make enough money from the game, we will make short 10-minute Bandersnatch Black Mirror style fictional stories, videos based again on our journalism. Oh, wow. So it's like a whole ecosystem that is based around good quality reporting. So we have an investigative report. We've just found out some tobacco companies doing something awful, massive exclusive on Point. That's turned into a game in some way or another, and then that gets turned into a choose your own adventure video as well. So people will get to play and watch a version of the news, and I'm hoping this becomes like a whole media thing. And ideally, I'm hoping that other freelancers who are freelance journalists who are struggling to make rent, as I know many are, because I've been there too, they can come and pitch their stories, and we will share the revenue from the game and the videos with them as well. This is a public service thing we're doing here. We're doing this to make sure that we fight misinformation, but also to make sure that journalists get paid for the hard work they do, because we need more good quality journalists. So if you're out there and you're a journalist listening, then come and pitch me your stories. But let's get the Kickstarter funded first. Yeah.
I'm gonna go after this recording. I'm gonna go and pledge. I think you can actually become a character in the game if you pledge a certain amount.
Correct.
So
yeah.
if you want to get some fame out there, then please pledge to the campaign.
Yeah, please do.
My last question to you would be: if you think about the next 10 years, how does the world look like if Point and Misinformer and your plans succeed?
I think I can imagine. It's a difficult question, you know. It's a good question. Out, right? Yeah. I'm trying to think. Oh, that's a good question. Well, I guess I've got quite humble plans. I'm not trying to be a millionaire, and I'm not trying to build a giant business. It's not my thing. My thing was always just to do good quality investigative journalism. So I would hope that we have enough money to continue doing good quality investigative journalism, but also that we inspire other people via Misinformer and via our new video series to become journalists themselves. I would hope that we have some, even if it's small, impact on misinformation, because I think that is the biggest issue affecting our democracy right now. Just this massive spread of information that people can't verify to be true or false. If we can have some impact on that, if we can give some people the critical skills to say, let me double check this. If not just critical skills, but the tools they know to look up on a DNS lookup, or if they know how to find out where websites come from, where information's come from, all that kind of stuff. So if we can have an impact on that, then I'd be extremely happy. And if some people, young people, want to become journalists and they cite us as inspiration, then I'd be doubly as happy. But ultimately, if we can get some money in the pockets of journalists out there doing good work, and they continue to do that, and other people continue to do that because they can actually afford to do it, then I'll be more than happy to do so. If Netflix want to come by the video series, then I'm I've got no problems with that either.
Netflix, you heard the Bandersnatch type content that's going to come out. So
there we go. You heard it here first. So yeah,
amazing. Thanks very much for joining me today, and all the best on that journey.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with a friend. To keep updated on new episodes, visit impacthustlers.com and sign up for our email alerts. And also follow us on Twitter @ImpactHustlers. Thanks very much for tuning in, and see you next week.
This was Impact Hustlers, the podcast on entrepreneurs and changemakers that are creating solutions to the world's biggest problems. Impact Hustlers is brought to you by Fast Forward 2030 and Real Changers. Visit fastforward2030.com to learn how to include the global goals into your business model, and realchangers.com to find talent and careers with impact.